So let's crack on with Module 1, Lesson number 1, Body Language when you're on the phone. Now, I work with a large number of organisations where I'll go in and help their sales team, their customer service team, their leadership team to be more effective. And one of the things I often find when I go into contact centres or even small offices with a small sales team and a small customer service team, even 2 or 3 people, uh, what I often find, I'll go into an operational floor and I can look around the operational floor and I can often identify some of the most successful people in the team without looking at notice boards or without checking sales figures or anything like that, just by the way that they hold themselves when they're on the call. There's something that I certainly look for, and what that is what their body language is saying. And what I often find is those that are standing up are actually a lot more successful. Why? Because they can move around, they can count things off in their hand, they'll use gestures, they'll use facial expressions, and they can move around. So there's a lot more energy when they're actually on that call. And I can often see that, and I'll check with managers and they'll say, you're right enough, they are actually really good. We always get really good feedback about them, about how engaging that they are. Now, there's a logical reason for it. If you think about somebody standing up, even me as I'm presenting this, I know that if I'm slouching, my lungs all they don't collapse into themselves, but they're certainly a lot more contracted. So if I sit up, I can or stand up even better. I get more air into my lungs, I get more oxygen into my brain, which allows me to think better, quicker, faster. It means I can speak a lot longer without having to catch my breath. And that really does help. You think about the old expression, thinking in your feet. This is where it comes from. You can think a lot more effectively if you stand up and move around. Now, understand that there are times when it's much more effective to stand up, but I do understand, I do appreciate there are times when you do need to sit down. It might be capturing data, it might be inputting data into say, your CRM system or the customer's files or whatever it might well be. It might even be just something as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, but you need to sit down so you can capture that information. But when you are sitting, be conscious of your body language even when you're sitting down. Again, in the photograph that you've got there, the people are sitting up, they're engaging their whole core of their body, they're getting air into their lungs and more oxygen into the brain, as I've already said. The hands are also much more comfortable as well. They're not having to stress and strain, they're not leaning forward to try and reach the keyboard. And also their computer terminals or screens are at eye level so they can actually engage and they can read information without having to hunt high and low and strain and stress and strain or tuck their chin down so that they're almost like constraining their throat. They're affecting their vocal cords. Obviously, that's going to affect it as well. Just one wee side thing. You can get this one for free. As far as vocal cords are concerned, a lot of people that spend a lot of time on the phone, come the end of the day, their throat's tired. They're really struggling. It gets tired, and it's fine after a while. But when I ask people, what do you drink? A lot of people say coffee from the machine, so you get powdered milk, and your coffee or your tea or whatever it might be. It might not be. That's not. You get a bit of fur lining in your vocal cords. But what also happens if you imagine your vocal cords are a bit like that? They're flexible, so you can easily get that volume and that energy out in your voice. But just think if you're drinking chilled water all day. And I'll often ask people, what water do you go for? And you get a chiller over in the corner there, what do you go for? I always go for the cold stuff. It refreshes me more. What that's actually doing is akin to a guy walking into the sea. Now, I live just outside Glasgow. The closest coast to me is the Ayrshire coast. And trust me, the water coming in from the Atlantic is freezing cold. So go back to the days when I used to go paddling. I'd go in up to my ankles and tell my mum and dad it was cold. Then it would be up to my knees and it'd be still cold. And go up to my thighs and it'd be cold. And it reaches a certain part in a young boy and an older gentleman where that water reaches a certain part and everything shrivels, everything tightens up. Think about that when you're drinking your cold water. Maybe don't want to think about it too much, but consider it. Think about that cold water hitting your vocal cords. They're fairly at room temperature or body temperature, and then you add chilled water to it. You've still got to project your voice, but you're going to have to start straining those vocal cords to get that volume out. So no wonder people's voices sound tired at the end of the day, and their people's throats are getting very tired and strained come the end of the day. So that's just a wee aside. So there you go. Let me say, I have seen people like this when they've been on the phone. Maybe not with a mobile phone, but they've got their head in their hand and their, whatever it might well be. I've seen people with their hand on their chin. And just, I can even feel it myself, my hand on my chin. I'm almost sort of locking down my jaw. You know, I'm almost sort of constraining what I can say, which means I'm not getting as much air into my lungs. Again, going back to that one. But it's not allowing that much fluidity in what I'm actually saying and how I use my mouth to get the words out more effectively. So just be conscious about your posture as well when you're on the phone. And I've certainly seen guys like this. I've seen the guys on the phone come the end of the day, maybe even mid-afternoon, with their heads in their desk and their get up and go's got them gone, and they're just knackered. They're just done in. And think about how much enthusiasm you're going to get into, pack into that your voice, and how engaged are you really going to sound when you're like that. If you're like that, I would actually say you've got to ask yourself if you're in the right job. I don't know if you are. Anyway, that's for another discussion. So just think about the body language when you're on there, and it's not just about your posture and how you sit and the air into your lungs and, you know, good for your back. It's also, you can hear people when they're engaged on the phone. You can hear people when they smile on the phone. There's an expression in contact centre land which works very well if you're not Scottish. I've got obviously a Scottish accent, and my smile does not rhyme with my dial. But you've probably heard this expression before: smile while you dial. And it certainly comes true. You get people like me, trainers, consultants, quality assurance people, smile while you dial. But you've got to make sure it's genuine. I've been into contact centres where they're told smile before you get on that call. I've even seen people with little mirrors on the side of their computers, and they've got to look at the mirror and smile to themselves and go into the call to the customer. Good morning, Mr. Customer. How long do you think it takes before it starts sounding like this? Hello, and they're smiling through gritted teeth. Be genuine. Don't fake this sort of stuff. It comes across. Now, there's probably something else that you've certainly come across in the real world, and that is if you watch body language, and you can often see when people are engaged with each other. You can certainly see if you sit in a bar or a cafe or a train station, whether the two people are in deep rapport with each other. And you might have heard the expression mirror and matching. There's a bit of a difference between the two. A lot of people don't really know what the difference is. Mirroring is, as you can imagine, it's just a reflection of one person with another person. If you think about people engaged with each other, if they're in deep rapport, they're mirroring as opposed to matching. I'll come to that in a second. They're mirroring, their knees are leaning in towards each other, their hands, their shoulders, their facial expressions, everything is similar. Not exactly the same, but similar. Think about two guys standing at a pub. They don't match each other. It's more like a reflection in a mirror. If they were to match each other, they would be doing the same thing. Think about people from the waist down. And what you actually find in this image that we've got here is both people have got their left leg crossed over their right leg. They're doing exactly as the other person is saying as far as that is concerned. That's matching. Doing similar is mirroring. Now you might be wondering, what's this got to do with when I'm on the phone? I'll get to there in a minute. But you'll often see other people and you'll go, that relationship's going nowhere. And what you'll often see is what's called mismatching. One person's doing something, the other person's doing the opposite. They're both basically looking for the door. Now, let me bring this back to phone skills. If you're on the phone with somebody, what you'll often find is if somebody says something to it, you'll naturally paraphrase what they've said. And what paraphrasing is taking on board what somebody's told you. You understand it, you listen it, you work out what your answer is, and you put it back in your own words. That's paraphrasing. We all know that. But think about when that is on the phone. That is mirroring. You're doing similar, not the exact same. You're doing similar. You're saying similar words, not the same words. That is critical at certain parts of the call. Parrot fashion is when somebody says something to you and you repeat back exactly what they've said word for word. Let's say somebody's on the phone and they say something to you like, I'm looking for a double flange conflagrator that goes anti-clockwise. If you stepped into parrot fashion and repeated exactly what they said, your response would be, you're looking for a double flange conflagrator that goes anti-clockwise. The person at the other end of the phone is going to go, I know, I've just told you that. It's not going to be great help. So there's times to paraphrase and there's times to use parrot fashion. What I would suggest is if early on in the call somebody says what they're looking for, paraphrase it. Use your language, use similar language. However, when you get to the end of the call, that's when you go parrot fashion. That's when you use their words, their exact words. So later on in the call, let me just recap, Mr. Customer. You said you're looking for a double flange conflagrator that goes anti-clockwise. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Because they'll remember their words. It's called recogniser words. They'll recognise the language that they have already used to you and you're now repeating it back to them. That is critical. So, there you go. Lesson number 1, done. Easy. Body language. Think about standing up. Now, some people are very comfortable with this. Some people are not comfortable. Find out what works for you. I've seen it working. Try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Think about when you're sitting down as well. Think about your posture. Are you sitting back? Are you getting air into your lungs, allowing oxygen into your brain? Think about that. Think about smiling, but be genuine. Don't fake it. And think about the language that you use as well. Think about what it's like in the real world where people mirror and match. Think about what they're doing, how they do similar, they do likewise. You're in deep rapport. 2 guys at the pub, Neil mentioned that earlier on. Think about whether they're mirroring each other or matching each other. They're in deep rapport. They're mirroring each other. One guy will have his elbow in the bar, his right elbow, he'll pick up his pint with his left hand. The other guy, if he was doing the exact same thing, he'd be facing the opposite direction. He doesn't. He puts his left elbow down and picks his pint up with his right hand. It's a reflection of each other. Put a mirror between the two of them. That's you got it. So, think about that when you're speaking to people. Say similar, lets people know that you've heard them and you've understood them. So do that straight after they've said something. Don't repeat exactly what they've said straight after they've said it. However, use parrot fashion later on in the call. When you're wrapping up, you're summarising, you come to the end of the call. Let me just recap, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer. What you're looking for is this, and use their words back to them. Parrot fashion. Use that. Try it. Try it this morning, try it this afternoon, try it the next couple of calls that you're on. Try a few of them. Just jot them down. Give them a go. What's the worst can happen? Give them a go and all the best. Good luck with it. I'm sure you'll do very well. And I'll see you soon for lesson number 2. Conversational offers. See you soon. All the best.